So in today's video, we're going to deep dive into which licenses are most likely joining Dead by Daylight after the Five Nights at Freddy's anniversary. And I think some of my top choices might be a surprise. In order to do this though, we'll have to consider all possibilities and make a timeline of licensing events, as well as things said publicly by the Dead by Daylight developers. Hey everyone, it's Schmuckles. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more content like this. We have to talk about which licenses are most likely to join DBD next, because it's entirely possible that they announce upcoming licenses at this anniversary stream, just as they have in the past. The focal point for this video must be the King's interview with Matthew Cote, where Cote talked about upcoming licenses. King asked Cote about the March license, which was Tokyo Ghoul, but recall that Cote wasn't exactly sure which license King was talking about. It's because Matthew Cote works so far in the future. This confusion confirms that the next license chapter after Five Nights at Freddy's was selected by behavior at the time of this interview. So this is where our timeline starts. The interview was posted by the King on October 5th, 2024, which means that the next license killer after Five Nights at Freddy's was known internally by Behavior Interactive at this point. This was our tier list when predicting the March license killer paragraph chapter. For most of these, this logic no longer applies to the license after FNAF, because we used clues given by Matthew Cote about the March license to organize this tier list. And let's get one thing clear. I don't think the next license after FNAF is going to be an anime or manga, even though Tokyo Ghoul was super well received. Internally, Behavior would have likely used this chapter to test the waters with an anime or manga. They probably tested the standalone chapter without any new plans for one lined up in the future. Another important fact that we have to take into consideration is the DBD Tadaima event. This was on March 13th, 2025, where Matthew Cote and Behavior Interactive showcased Tokyo Ghoul in Japan. Matthew Cote said there are plans to collaborate with legendary horror movies in the future. And here Cote is talking about a movie deal that is lined up. So the question here is Matthew Cote talking about the next licensed killer after FNAF, or another license down the road? Was this possibly a license that Matthew Cote was confusing for Tokyo Ghoul during that interview with the King? Cote using the word legendary is a very specific way to describe a license. And just so we know the right way to be thinking about this license, Oxford Dictionary defines it as a remarkable enough to be famous, very well known. So Cote was likely talking about a very recognizable movie IP. So here's my top picks for the next license after FNAF and why. Number 10 is Megan. To Behavior Interactive, Megan and other Blumhouse and Atomic Monster IPs would probably count as legendary movie IPs. And the fact Cote said IPs plural could mean that there's multiple Blumhouse and Atomic Monster horror IPs in the pipeline. However, we think the license after FNAF was already selected on October 5th, 2024. And on February 2nd, 2025, an article came out revealing that the Behavior devs wanted Megan as a playable character in DBD. So if this collaboration was happening privately behind closed doors, I don't think the devs would have mentioned or volunteered this license as a possibility. It was probably a huge deal within Behavior when the Houndmaster and Tokyo Ghoul was leaked. Internally, they were probably trying to figure out the source of the leaks, and therefore there's no way any dev would say anything publicly that could be interpreted as a leak. So while Megan is possible, the timeline doesn't make perfect sense for Megan to be that next licensed killer after FNAF. Vecna is number 9 on my list. While Vecna is possible, there have been rumors suggesting that Netflix doesn't want to add any more Stranger Things content to DBD. War Steve posted on Twitter asking Netflix and Stranger Things to add more Stranger Things content to DBD. And Gorgiero responded and said, "I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm 95% sure they're never getting anything ever again." Netflix got so annoyed with the spam on their posts, they gave the license back, but we're not getting anything new, unfortunately, just what I heard. Now, Gorgiero was definitely in the know when the Houndmaster and Tokyo Ghoul leaks came out, so although we know Gorgiero does like to joke around a lot, it's still possible that this tweet is leaked information. Obviously, the Stranger Things version of Vecna is from a TV show, not a movie, and Matthew Cote explicitly said movie IP. And something to further support what Gorgiero was saying about Netflix not wanting to do this is the fact that Vecna did not appear on Fortnite's March 2025 survey. So it seems like there's no plans to add Vecna into Fortnite. And you know, the Demogorgon was added to Fortnite. So if there were plans to license Vecna into Dead by Daylight, would we expect to see Vecna on the March Fortnite survey? Number 8 is Art the Clown. October 28th, 2024, Steve Barton says Matthew Cote did his best and wanted this license as much as the fans. This was after the King's interview with Matthew Cote, so the next license probably isn't Art the Clown. And on September 22nd, 2024, there was the Terrifier panel, and they said apart from the COD and Funko collaborations for Art the Clown, there's 2 really exciting video games that have yet to be announced.
But we're also seeing other things. I mean, I know Art's involved in, like, there's a video game tie-in. He's showing up in, like, Call of Duty.
Yeah, he's in Call of Duty, Funkos. I mean, there's so many cool, and there's like 2 really exciting things that are still yet to be announced that I can't say. One of them you're gonna go crazy for, so I'm excited for that.
And it's interesting, the March 2025 Fortnite survey, which shows possible upcoming Fortnite collabs, did not list Art the Clown or Terrifier as an IP for the future. So maybe that does mean that Damian Leone was talking about Dead by Daylight and not Fortnite. And maybe when Matthew Cote said at the Tadaima event on March 13, 2025, legendary horror movies are planned, he was talking about the next license as well as an Art the Clown collab further down the road. Since Steve Barton acknowledged that the Terrifier DVD collab wasn't happening as of October 28, 2024, which is after the King's interview with Matthew Cote on October 5th, 2024, this means that Art the Clown does not fit perfectly as the next licensed killer after FNAF. Also, one of the games Damian Leone could have been talking about was that new Terrifier arcade game. And this is a new arcade style game coming to PS5 and Switch, so there's definitely an effort being made by the license holders to get Terrifier into the video game space. But the reason Art the Clown is so high up on my list is because although it could be considered a legendary horror movie IP in recent times, and there is potentially evidence of a collaboration that could happen in the future, there's pretty solid evidence via the timeline that a different license, one that was planned at the time with the King's interview with Matthew Cote, will join before Terrifier. Number 7 is Pennywise. There's no question that Pennywise fits the description of a legendary horror movie IP. In fact, that might be one of the most legendary licenses left, and definitely a license that the Dead by Daylight developers want. Behavior had likely selected the license, the one that's after FNAF, at the time of the King's interview on October 5th, 2024. We know that word got out that Multiverses was packing up shop on January 31st, 2025, and of course this is when we heard that Warner Bros.' new tactic is to double down on collabs and with other games again, including Fortnite. So what I'm concluding from these dates is that a Pennywise collab could be in the pipeline. If Warner Bros. Was only okay licensing in a version of Pennywise that they own after that date, January 31st, 2025, Pennywise would not be the next license after FNAF. Now, if Warner Bros. And New Line Cinema actually made moves to licensing their IP into third-party games before that date, so that would have been before the Multiverse's shutting down went public, then Pennywise would be possible for the next license. It's a possibility, but we haven't seen any evidence of this. We haven't seen any leaks or evidence of Warner Bros. IPs being licensed into Fortnite or even on Fortnite's radar as a possibility. We haven't seen any Warner Bros. IPs, or the license it for that matter, listed on Fortnite's survey of potentially upcoming collabs for them. Number 6 is Predator. There isn't very much new news tying Predator to a licensing collab other than the obvious 20th Century Studios connection. Alien and Predator were both licensed into Fall Guys recently. They came in together on February 4th, 2025, both licensed through 20th Century Studios. Does Predator count as a legendary horror movie IP? I'm not really sure. It is horror and sci-fi together, and Predator did follow Alien in suit when both IPs were introduced into Mortal Kombat. So the reason Predator definitely has to be within our top 6 is because it seems inevitable that Predator will join DBD someday. However, I just don't really consider Predator to be a legendary horror movie IP. When I think of a horror movie IP, Predator is not the first license that I think of. Number 5 is Jason Voorhees. September 16th, 2024, Sean S. Cunningham, one of the directors and showrunners associated within the Friday the 13th franchise, talked about Friday the 13th in video games. He said for sure Jason's going to show up in more video games. He really had a nice run with the first video game, referring to the Friday the 13th game. Cote's interview with the King was shortly after this, so it's possible that Cunningham knows that Jason is planned for DBD in the future. Also on March 13th, 2025, at the Tadaima event, Matthew Cote was asked if there's any collaboration with Jason, and Cote said DBD is always making offers and ready to accept them at any time. And I just want to point out that Cote might have been purposely careful with his wording here. This statement, DBD is always making offers and is ready to accept them at any time, could be Cote's way of avoiding the question because a collaboration is planned. So maybe just as we've seen with past licenses like Chucky and the reintroduction of Stranger Things into Dead by Daylight, this is Cote's way of not confirming nor denying the fact that a collaboration is secretly planned while still not lying about the facts of the situation. There's been a lot of activity with the Jason Voorhees license holders recently. On March 24th, 2025, it was announced that Linda Cardellini was cast as Pamela Voorhees in the Friday the 13th prequel series Crystal Lake on Peacock. And on February 12th of this year, someone said on Twitter, why can't we get a new Friday the 13th movie simply because of money? How much would it make for now? Differences really can't be put aside to reignite this franchise? Ridiculous. And the Friday the 13th Twitter account responded and said, it's all about the shared rights now and the parties can agree what to be made and how they get paid. Don't forget that they have to have New Line on board to release the film and Paramount if needed. Then a few weeks later, the Friday the 13th Twitter account said we can expect new news from A24 and Peacock by May May of this year. And last year on December 20th, 2024, the Crystal Lake showrunner promised the prequel series will be worth the wait. The new showrunner who replaced Brian Fuller, Brad Caleb Kane, shared how much progress he has made on the retooled Crystal Lake. He posted on his Instagram on December 13th, 2024, and said that the story has been broken, scripts have been and are being written, and the goal is to give the fans a tense, scary, bloody, satisfying ride that's well worth the wait. Number 4 is a Jurassic World Indoraptor. Ruthless Leaks, who's in the know with the Houndmaster and Tokyo Ghoul leaks while he was in the data mining scene over at DBD Leaks, said he was given fairly credible information that a Jurassic World Indoraptor is coming to DBD. And this video right here is the first time my channel learned about the Houndmaster leak. That was September 11th, 2024. We'll fast forward to later that date, and Ruthless Leaks actually provided this screenshot, which they're saying is concept art for the December original killer. We can see that the killer is a girl that has a dog, a part of her power, and Ruthless also said that this person was apparently supposed to be a slave owner. Now this is something that could have been scrapped, but this is pretty in line with what Gorgier was saying before. So Ruthless was given reliable information at this time, but even in the leaking community, the leaks were masked. Ruthless was told about the Houndmaster, an anime collab, and a Japanese IP. Ruthless was apparently told that the anime collab was Perfect Blue to hide that it was Junji Ito, and that the Japanese IP was Ju-On the Grudge when it was actually Tokyo Ghoul. So Ruthless was given pieces of real information with fake leaks, so the real leaks didn't spread. So the point is, Ruthless gained contacts through this, and to this day he still claims that the Jurassic rumors that he was told by his contacts are still true. Ruthless was the one who was right about the Houndmaster, an anime collab, and a Japanese IP, but also has had a past of being trolled by clout chasers too. While Ruthless still claims that Jurassic is coming to DBD, it's possible that these rumors are somehow not true. Number 3 is The Conjuring. If Warner Bros. Actually is looking to license IPs into games now, and the fact that Matthew Cote said that legendary horror movie IPs are planned, The Conjuring really fits the pieces of the puzzle pretty well. Both Pennywise and The Conjuring are owned by New Line Cinema, which people have historically always thought that they didn't really want to work with behavior after the Freddy Krueger DLC. However, things can change over long periods of time. And Warner Bros. Shutting down the multiverses and leakers claiming that Warner Bros. Now wants to license their IPs into third-party games is evidence that possibly New Line Cinema has changed. Since the Freddy Krueger DLC, DBD has collaborated with Disney, Netflix, and Universal, which could incentivize larger movie studios like Warner Bros. To change their mind on DBD, since other major movie studios are doing the same. Also, the new Conjuring movie is set to be released on September 5th, 2025. Warner Bros. And New Line Cinema are attached to the project, as well as James Wan. He wrote the story, and Atomic Monsters attached to it as well, which is the company that's helping make the Dead by Daylight movie. So if Stephen King has any say on who gets their hands on the Pennywise license, it seems like The Conjuring would be a more likely license than It from New Line Cinema. Also, The Conjuring is a license that's always showed up on DVD surveys. The most recent survey included the likes of Tokyo Ghoul and Junji Ito, so it seems likely that the next license collab will also come from this list. Could this article from February 2nd of this year also further support this theory of The Conjuring coming into Dead by Daylight? We think at the time of this article, the devs had already selected the license that's coming in after FNAF, and Matthew Cote said that he wanted Stephen King as a playable character. Probably means that nothing Stephen King related is in the works, and that includes Pennywise in that. But if The Conjuring is going to be the next license to come into DBD, that would mean that Behavior would have New Line Cinema on board, and perhaps Stephen King is the last piece of the puzzle to getting Pennywise into Dead by Daylight. So him not mentioning Pennywise or anything Warner Bros. Related, but saying he wants Stephen King as a playable character, this is just a theory, but maybe it's because they have New Line Cinema on board with The Conjuring as an upcoming licensed chapter. But since New Line Cinema and Stephen King would be required for Pennywise, they just need Stephen King to be on board, so they'd say something like this about Stephen King himself being in DBD. I know Stephen King is a great horror author, but it's kind of strange to say that you want him as a playable character in DBD. He's not like an actor like Nick Cage. So maybe if they have New Line on board for a Conjuring chapter in DBD, they would just say they want Stephen King as a playable character just to sort of get his attention, and because he's the last piece to getting Pennywise. I don't know. I got The Conjuring at number 3 right now because it really fits the pieces of the puzzle really well. Number 2 is Candyman. Definitely a legendary horror movie IP. Now this license has been historically difficult to get. Something that's really interesting about Candyman is the timing is right now to bring this IP into DBD. It's a similar situation to Pinhead, and likely the same reason that Pinhead was brought into DBD is the reason that Candyman could be the license after FNAF. So let me explain. When it comes to Pinhead, Clive Barker recaptured the US rights to the original Hellraiser screenplay on December 18th, 2021. This is because the Hellraiser franchise in the screenplay is based on Clive Barker's book, The Hellbound Heart. A new copyright law came into play in 1978. It's the Copyright Termination Act Section 203, which says that after authors wait 35 years, they can recapture the rights to their stories that they sold to the movie studios. So this is how Clive Barker recaptured the US rights to the original Hellraiser screenplay. This transfer of ownership from Park Avenue Entertainment to Clive Barker happened after after Park Avenue Entertainment signed with Behavior to bring Hellraiser to Dead by Daylight. So Park Avenue Entertainment likely signed with Behavior at that time because they were in their use it or lose it window when Behavior licensed Pinhead into DVD. They were going to lose the US rights to Clive Barker, but Park Avenue Entertainment signed a deal with Behavior before that happened. It's called Park Avenue Entertainment's use it or lose it window because Park Avenue only has until Clive Barker's termination date to monetize off of the original Hellraiser. So that last year leading up to the termination date, the license holders were incentivized to profit off of licensing contracts and movies about the original Pinhead, and that's probably how Behavior got Pinhead in DVD. The same thing has happened privately with the Candyman license. Clive Barker wrote the book The Forbidden in 1985. Movie studios like TriStar Pictures, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Universal Studios, and MGM bought the rights from Clive Barker and made the Candyman franchise based off of his book, The Forbidden. Well, it's been 35 years since that first film, so under the termination grant USC Section 203, Clive Barker has made moves to recapture the rights to the original Candyman screenplay and the character Candyman in the US. And you can see evidence of this in the US Copyright Office catalog. Barker is set to recapture the US rights to the original Candyman movie from the studios on November 3rd, 2026. And Barker issued a manner of service notice on October 21st, 2020, so the license holders are aware that this date is coming up. Right now, up until November 3rd, 2026, Amazon is in their use it or lose it window with the Candyman license. They'll be incentivized to monetize off the original IP as much as possible, which is exactly how Behavior brought Pinhead into DVD. So in my opinion, Candyman could very well be the next big license after FNAF. Clive Barker recaptured the rights to Pinhead on December 19th, 2021, and Pinhead's PTB was a few months before that date on August 17th, 2021. So something similar could happen with Candyman before the termination date, which is November 3rd, 2026. MGM owned the rights to Candyman for a long time, but Amazon bought out MGM, so the Candyman rights were transferred to them. There's a couple things here. Clive Barker only gets the US rights to the original Candyman. The international rights are still going to be held by Amazon, and later iterations of the character Candyman are still also likely held by Amazon. Also note, if Behavior were ever to renegotiate with Clive Barker and Park Avenue to bring Pinhead back to DVD, maybe they could also acquire the Candyman license too if it's after Barker's termination date for Candyman, November 3rd, 2026. It was just interesting. I was looking up articles on Clive Barker, and he was described as a legendary horror writer and filmmaker behind Hellraiser and Candyman. And that word legendary was the same word that Kote used to describe upcoming IPs, and it was also used to describe Clive Barker and his work. And that brings us to our number one choice. I have a question. Can you guess what the number one choice is based on the licenses that we have not talked about yet? Number one's gotta be The Walking Dead. The most reliable leaker in recent times, Gumpy, told us that AMC reached out to Behavior about it. So it could very well be a license that's on the roadmap and will join DVD in the near future. There's been a lot of Walking Dead stuff licensed into Fortnite lately. Fortnite creative The Walking Dead Today. Unique Walking Dead weapons, Walker NPCs, and new builds. Maps are publishable on May 16th. Hypex, a reliable Fortnite leaker, said this: Battle Royale skins will likely return soon after a year of being out of the game. New themed weapons, templates, and Walker NPCs. New props from The Walking Dead and more. Hypex also said a Negan Fortnite skin is coming, unknown if it's a movie or comic version. And this Fortnite leaker said Negan enters the item shop on April 4th, and of course this is the comic book version of Negan here in this picture. Firemonkey said according to the Fortnite UEFN, the Walking Dead universe collab, these characters and assets we're making available to you are only from the Walking Dead comics, not from the Walking Dead TV series on AMC. And if you actually go to the Epic Games website, you can see that the Walking Dead universe brand and creator rules are up. There's visuals of the comic book version of The Walking Dead. I'm not exactly quite sure how this works, but you're going to be able to use the comic book version of The Walking Dead in the creative mode, I believe. One of the rules here is do not use content that originated from the Walking Dead TV show. The characters and assets we're making available to you here are only from the Walking Dead comics, not the TV show from AMC. So I think Walking Dead's got to be number one. It's interesting here because they're really separating out the AMC version versus the comic book version. Obviously, Gumpy was mentioning the AMC version. It's interesting to see that the Walking Dead license holders on both ends are very active in the video game space. So my money would be on the AMC version coming into DVD, though the Walking Dead comics are also possible. The license holders for each of those entities, the comic book version versus the TV series version, do not really like each other. So if you're interested in this whole licensing situation, I would definitely recommend clicking on the title above. It goes over in depth what happened to these two entities. But yeah, this is my list right now for which license is most likely after FNAF. What do you think about these picks? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with any of them? Is there anything that I forgot? Do you have any other different theories? And even like, I feel like different theories could just be different interpretations of the information that's out there. We'll definitely post more videos as new speculations, theories, licensing news, and leaks come out for Dead by Daylight licensed IPs. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more content like this. That does it for this video. Goodbye.